Hello and welcome to Mike's Garage. If you've already subscribed to our channel, thank you very much. If you haven't, please do. And when you do, please tap on the little notification bell. Something I wanted to mention, I don't know if everybody knows this or not. I know I'm very computer illiterate. So please don't be embarrassed if there's something you don't know. When you subscribe to this channel, that's a free service offered to us by Google. So when you tap on the subscribe button, it doesn't cost you a cent, which to me is very important. Okay, that takes care of that. Now, in our last video, we finished building the carburetor. I can't wait, have to show it off. Ta-da! There she is. And I'm very pleased with it. I didn't do anything fancy, just cleaned it up, rebuilt it, ready to go. I mean, the float is, it has a new float in it, and we've gone through all that in the previous videos, but there it is. It's ready to go. So I'm going to set it over on the other side of the bike, because from this side I'm going to attach the intake manifold. This is a mismatched pair of heads. This is a much earlier head than this head. Spigots are different, but it's adapted to O-rings on both sides now. So this side was originally the big nut, or this was originally, with the original head, it had the big nuts and the crush collars in them and all that sort of thing. This is a later cylinder head, and no, it's an earlier cylinder head. This is the one that had the big nuts with the spigot that's screwed in. This one here is cast as part of the head. So I put in a new spigot and we're ready to go. I spent a lot of time, but I got the manifold to fit very well. And there is the fitment of it. So now what we're going to do is take these O-rings here, and I'm putting dish soap on them. Nice new O-rings. And the reason for the dish soap is I want them to slide. I don't want to chafe them. I don't want to risk hurting them. There's one. And you'll see the reason for doing this in a minute after it's on. Okay, they are both on there. Now we'll put the manifold in place. And we'll roll these O-rings right into the groove. There's that one, the rear one, and now the front one. You could hear them pop into place. Now, with that dish soap on there, we can roll everything up the way it's supposed to be. And we get the clamps on there, they'll center themselves pretty well. But with the dish soap on there, we can rotate the manifold like this so we can get the clamps in there. Now, these are stainless steel clamps. I like to use them because they're soft enough that they will conform to the shape of the manifold and the port. And I'll put them on in the direction I prefer them. I also bend this stud just a little bit so that when I put it together, it has a tendency to conform to the roundness of the port and the manifold. You can see like that. Okay, well, I'm going to put it on now. I have to bump my head here regularly. It's part of the program. Okay, so we'll get this clamp on here. And you see with the manifold turned like this, that wasn't very hard. And there, that one started. And we'll get the other one on there. I don't know how many times I've put them on and had to take them off again because I didn't get them on in the right direction. So the stud came out in the right place. And so if you do that, don't feel like the Lone Ranger. Okay, now they're started. So what I'm going to do is tighten them up a little at a time. I can put the manifold back in the position that it's going to operate, roughly. That clamp down there where I want it. Do it like this. There we go. That's getting started real well. We can have a look at it here. It's still there. But we're going to tighten it up, and it's going to center up at that point. Holding it against the head. Got to make it look good too, you know. Now we can try it with a wrench. Take it a little at a time. And we can watch it pull itself right into place. And as it pulls it into place, I'll go over to the other side and stick my finger in there. I've got some pretty long fingers. I want to feel where the manifold is mating onto the intake port of the cylinder head. And we'll get these about equal tightness. This is the same funky old manifold that was on this bike when it came in, and the same funky old carburetor that was on the motorcycle when we brought it over here. Okay, I'm going to go over there and put my finger inside there and see if I can feel it. I don't think you'll be able to see it. I have to move that manifold up to where it's going to go. And I can feel the alignment on both sides, and it feels wonderful. I mean, it's a real match on both sides, and I love it. Now, before I do a final tightening, I'm just going to cinch it up a little bit more, and before I do the final tightening, I'm going to mount the carburetor. So, that being said, I was going to show this too. See this black ring around here? This is a carburetor gasket that was on it. This is an old gasket. I have no idea what company it came from, but obviously the hole was too small. So when you're doing this stuff and you get new gaskets, get gaskets that actually fit the manifold. And if they don't, you can see it right here, I think. I switched sides on Mike and made it rough. I'm sorry. See, this really matches the hole in the intake manifold. You don't want to block any air from there. The other thing is, this is an insulator block. And what it does is it helps keep the carburetor from getting too hot. Keeps it a little cooler. So here we have my magical white lithium grease. And we'll just stick this thing right onto the manifold. I should have put the bolts in. You can watch from this side, Mike. I'm just going to stick the bolts into the manifold. There's 4 of them here. Okay, that was pretty good. Now I also bought, for this carburetor, a new brace. Should always put a brace under the carburetor. Expecting it to just hang from the manifold and be fine is wrong. Carburetor's too heavy. Any carburetor is actually too heavy to do that with. And we'll put grease on both sides of this insulator block. And we'll put it back on to the manifold. Get that out of there. All right, we've got one more gasket. So we have a gasket on the manifold, an insulator block, and another gasket. That all goes between the manifold and the carburetor. And we have that brace on there, which I did talk about. I don't know if I pointed it out. There it is. It's a brand new one, supplied by Colony. We'll get grease on both sides of this gasket. Make a nice seal in there. We do not want vacuum leaks. All right. And there that is. And the gasket's just going to slide right on there. Okay, there's all 4 bolts and the manifold. Now all that excess grease is not going to do a thing at all. It's just a little white lithium grease, which is absolutely harmless. I don't recommend putting it on your pancakes, but pretty much harmless. Now we're going to get this carburetor onto the manifold. And with a little luck, let's see if I can drop it in there. No, I can't. Can I? There it is. Now see, the carburetor, the manifold is still floating a bit. And we'll get the bolts in there. There's the two top ones. And again, back over to the other side to get the bottom ones. Again, the brace at the bottom is loose on purpose. So let me start those two on the bottom over here. There's that one. Of course, I'm having trouble getting it started. Everybody's watching. Okay, there's 3 of them. And here is number 4. There we go. Now, we can put this nut and washer on the support bracket. And there it is. Now I'm going to go around and tighten everything down. I have not tightened the manifold completely yet. But here's the carburetor. Tighten to the bracket, the support bracket. Which is also attached to a motor stud right here. And that little crow's foot wrench allows me to get in there and tighten that. Sometimes you have to back the nut off the other side of that engine stud. And get it as tight as you can, and then go over and tighten the stud from the other side. Had to bump my head one more time. Okay, now we can tighten the carburetor to the manifold. I do them in a cross pattern. And I don't believe there is a torque spec for that. Just good and tight. And now we can finish tightening the manifold clamps because everything is where it's going to go. Watching to make sure that clamp is tight against the head. All the way over there. That pretty much does it. Again, this stud needs to be tightened. There is a spec on that. I believe it's 25 pounds, and I will check it with a torque wrench. So there it is. There's the manifold and the carburetor, and it's on. We have plenty more to do here. I believe I have fittings for all of this, and we'll get to that when we get the tanks on it. But for now, that's pretty much it. In our next video, we'll probably, I don't know, maybe adjust the valves and set the points. And, it's not far from running now. Going to have to make some provisions to get gas tanks on it, but we'll do that too. But that's for next time. So until then, I'll see you out on the road.